And hello again. Welcome to Live from the Lakehouse. My goodness, what a keynote that was. That was possibly, I think, the best keynote I think I've ever seen in my career. How about you?
I loved it. I can't tell you, I'm going to just grab this and talk about Matei dropping Unity Catalog and opening it right there on stage. That was just the most precious moment. It was fantastic.
I must say, I've been sat there watching the hashtag Data and AI Summit, and so many people are so excited about Unity Catalog being open source. And again, just such an amazing thing to be able to do. And I hear if you're at the conference right now, there might be some new Unity Catalog swag around. So do try and get some of those t-shirts. But yeah, by all means, go take a look at it. It is available live. You can have a look at it on GitHub. So exciting.
Really, really big news and a really big drop. I'm also really excited to hear about all of the ways that we've gotten more richness in terms of all the features extending out and stuff like this. The compatibility story that we're having around both Delta Lake and with Uniform on top, all of those bits and all the different things. I loved watching, like you see those things come together where you have a Unity catalog, set of catalogs managing and having the federated access to all of these other data stores.
Great.
That was beautiful. And you think about like the way that unification story and the compatibility story plays across both Unity Catalog and the file systems themselves, the file formats themselves. It's just really great.
And of course, we had a lot of AI, BI stuff as well. Some really great demos coming out of that. And we have some fantastic guests lined up for you today. I have, in fact, lost count how many guests we have. I think we have about 15 guests today. Really absolute stars of the Databricks world. And our first guest is absolutely no exception. So following on from the AI, BI announcements, we would absolutely love to welcome here Ken Wong, who is a Senior Director in Product Management. Good morning, how are you?
I'm doing great, how are you guys?
Very good, thank you so much for joining us here.
Yeah, I'm happy to.
Fired up about this. Tell us a little bit about your tenure as a product manager here at Databricks.
So I've been here for about a year and a half. I joined via an acquisition. So I founded a little analytics startup that Databricks had acquired called DataJoy.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, my team's here as well. And yeah, super excited. We've been working on data warehousing as well as AI BI.
Sweet, sweet, sweet. Yeah, getting acquired, it's a good thing.
It worked out, yeah.
So you are an absolute kind of titan in this space with about 10 years experience in kind of AI and BI areas. Tell us, what are you most excited for the announcements that are happening this week in this kind of space?
Well, I think AI in BI has been a topic for a long time. You know, Gartner had been talking about augmented analytics and all these things for a long time, and I've worked on some of those as well. But at Databricks, we've had the unique opportunity to really build a BI tool from the ground up with AI at its core, rather than something that you add on top of a BI stack. And it's just really astounding what a difference really that makes. Just a difference in approach.
Fantastic.
So AI, BI, this breaks down to a few different components. So we've got two major ones, haven't we? So we've got the dashboarding itself, and then also we have the Genie area as well.
Yeah, I mean, AI BI is really two experiences built on top of sort of the same foundational engine. And so in terms of experiences, you're right. We have dashboards and we have Genie. So dashboard's pretty straightforward. It's a dashboarding tool, built to be super fast, built to be unified with UC, so you can govern everything in one place. And it has just all the features you would expect of a normal dashboard, cross-filtering, low code, all the works. Now, the other side is Genie, and what Genie allows you to do is answer all the questions that you haven't put into your dashboard. So it's a natural language interface, akin to chatting with ChatGPT, but about the data that you're interested in.
Nice.
And what makes Genie and the dashboard really special is they're powered by this compound AI system that's able to really reason through what it means to answer a question, using all the context that's available in Unity Catalog, all the lineage and all the other usage from other workloads in order to answer your question. And we've built it in such a way such that it continuously learns. And when it doesn't know something, it'll actually say, I don't know how to answer that.
Oh, that's really good.
And if you, instead of kind of giving up, you can just tell it, hey, this is how you answer that question, if you know how to answer the question. And you can tell it, hey, this is how you answer the question. and it will remember that and use it for the future. So it kind of builds upon its knowledge base to become more and more intelligent.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Really cool, especially the part where you're able to, in essence, kind of give it more context as an individual user, as opposed to needing the context to all already be down in the system. So when you're able to supply as a user some new information that it helps inform what it needs to do next, that's really great.
Yeah, no, I think that's really the key, is that the difference between people who are able to manipulate data and people who can't answer questions for themselves. It's not just technical skills, but it's also, it kind of goes both ways. Like technical people might not have the business understanding, business people might not have the technical knowledge to manipulate, and then by teaching an LLM about that gap, AIBI is able to kind of fill that and allow business people to answer their own questions.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we can give some kind of Databricks examples of where, like, the data, the context to understand it can be so challenging, because you're also bumping up against, like, accounting things. So if I'm looking at, like, who a customer is, but they might be a subsidiary of another group, or they might be part of, like, another geography, and then in terms of, like, what defines an account, like, is it the contract? And you're just like, I just want to find out whether they're using a feature or not. Like, I don't really care
100%.
about, like, the strict definition of, like, whether it's one customer or another. So, yeah, it's not just about people that maybe aren't as confident in kind of SQL and kind of analytics tools.
Absolutely.
It's also that context of, like, to the point earlier about, like, what is EMEA?
Yes. No, absolutely.
It's a big old broad brush,
Absolutely.
isn't it?
Like what is EMEA, or what is ARR, or what is an active user, right?
Yes, yes, that's a big one.
Yeah, Jensen talked about it yesterday in the keynote, and like every business has kind of their own concepts, their own unique semantics, their own domain knowledge. And previously, with old BI tools, or conventional BI tools, I should say, you have to inject that by modeling it all in. And for a lot of non-technical people, it's like just not an option. So AIBI allows you to actually tell it through natural language, which really opens up, the funnel.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So, Ken, tell me, look, I've been coming in from the person who's not a BI person. When you talk about the AI aspect of doing this, how has it been in terms of like the teams and the partnerships that you've had within the Databricks company to like sort of put together the right collection of people? Like, did you already have like sort of like a core nucleus where everything you needed was in that team, or did you have to make sort of cross-functional relationships?
It's a very cross-functional group, because it's in the name. It crosses the boundary of AI and BI, and so there are like a few areas where we really wanted AIBI to stand out. One was obviously just performance. We wanted things to load super fast, and in order to do that, we really have to optimize down into the engine. And so obviously the Databricks SQL team is involved in that.
And also the front end as well. I mean, Databricks is known for being big data, and if the front end, like the web app is a little bit sluggish, it's not really made that much of an impact. But I have noticed when using dashboards, oh my goodness, they're lightning fast.
Oh, absolutely.
And so much work has gone in there as well.
Well, exactly, and that's the other aspect of what I was going to mention, was obviously BI is by nature a very graphical, very user-facing, and also there's a lot of nuances in it, and we're fortunate enough to have a lot of people with deep BI backgrounds, a lot of engineers from different places that have built great BI tools, and we brought them in. And then obviously we have the benefit of having an amazing applied AI team who can work with the Mosaic stack to give us the ability to iterate very, very quickly and build these very, very novel systems. So it's a confluence of different talent coming together, and also, like, frankly, at the right time in the industry too.
I hear that. Yeah. The timing is such an important element of all of this, because so many times we've seen, for example, this is too much data for us to do this kind of operation in a practical amount of time being a factor, right? And then the systems get faster, and then now you can actually manage that much data. Now you can do more, and these same kinds of things keep coming up.
Yeah, both on the data side as well as on the AI side with the LLMs that are available now. A lot of things that we're trying to do or are doing now with AIBI, you just couldn't imagine doing a few years ago.
Yeah, I was going to kind of talk about Genie Spaces, and you've absolutely hit the nail on the head, because I think, if someone said to me, oh, we can take AI and use it with BI, I'd make the equivalent of what we have for the dashboards now. You describe the thing in plain English, and then it makes the graph for you. But the kind of Genie work, for me, this was one of those things that I didn't know I wanted until I heard about it.
Oh.
So what were the things that you were hearing from customers that made you think, oh, actually, no, we don't think dashboard's quite right for you. We think you need something separate here.
Well, I think if you've worked in BI long enough, like this has been the holy grail all along, right?
Really?
To be able to answer their own questions. Like everyone, we have reports and dashboards for the last 30 years, right? I hate to admit this, like my first job as an intern was working on the Crystal reports.
Crystal reports.
Right, that was my first job, working cross-tabulation engine in Crystal reports, and that's a great tool. But if you really take a step back, like we've made a lot of advances as an industry, but fundamentally the form factors haven't deviated that much from structured reports and dashboard. And that's because they're really effective at distributing information to a wide range of people. But for questions that aren't in those dashboards and reports, it's never been an answer. And so like it was never a doubt that people wanted the ability to ask and answer their own questions. It was much more like, how can you actually deliver on that promise? And that's what's really exciting about AI BI. It's like we can see with real customers now having phenomenal success. I mean, I don't know if you guys caught the entire keynote today, but the Texas Rangers, Alexander Booth, showed Genie live in action. And I've been in this industry long enough to have worked with actually another professional team who was really interested in using AI. And so when I heard about the Texas Rangers wanting to use Genie, I was a little skeptical because the last one didn't work so well. But they were able to do this all themselves very, very quickly and realize the value of just democratizing access to this player data they had.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So there's something that I have a bit of a hypothesis about. I'm hoping that with people being able to ask their own questions, we're going to see a reduction in the amount of dashboards that are made for like one person.
Oh, 100%.
Like the amount of times it's like, oh, well, I need a dashboard to show me X, Y, Z, and then, gets looked at once and then never again. Do you think that Genie could?
Yeah, 100%. Like so much of analysis ends up being these ad hoc one-off things, and we create this heavyweight asset around it. And also like just, you talk about a single dashboard that's not used again, or also just complex dashboards with like 1,000 permutations built into them. So you can like fidget with the filter and like, if you like click on this and that and that and then you can get the right answer. We can hopefully get rid of all of that as well.
Yes, as someone who has, in the very early days at Databricks, tried to make a few sales dashboards, people love it, and they're like, oh, but can I get this other filter, and this other filter, and this other filter? And before you know it, you've got a dashboard that's half filters, and the remaining is just graphs.
Exactly. And that's why people say, like, hey, I'm just going to download it to Excel. So,
oh, my goodness, yes, the plague. The plague of BI tools. All right, thank you so much for coming to us today and talking about AI BI. If people want to get started, what's probably the best way for them to do so?
Well, everything is available. So you can go into your Databricks account and start creating dashboards right away. If you want Genie, you can toggle that on, assuming you're a workspace admin, or you can ask your workspace admin, just turn it on. It's available for everybody.
Okay then, wonderful. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Great seeing you.
Honestly, hearing that there might be fewer dashboards that end up in that kind of graveyard of like exported to Excel once and then never looked at
Never done again. Oh.
Honestly, that's a fantastic thing.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point too, because once a dashboard gets large enough and complex enough, there are some times when you end up making it such that some person who comes new to it, who wants to get the information that they need for their insights, someone's told, oh, that dashboard has all that information. It's like, yes, it might have it, but it hasn't been exposed in a way that makes it obvious right out of the gate. So when you have the ability to dynamically generate the thing that you need in a way that's obvious to you right in that moment, that's really useful.
That is true. All right, up next, we have another fantastic guest. We have Simon Whiteley, CTO, co-founder, Advancing Analytics, and also that YouTube man. Simon.
YouTube man, yeah.
YouTube.
Hi.
Big time on YouTube.
How's your week been this week, Simon?
Yeah, it's been great. It's been chaotic. It's been busy. It's been like jet lag has been interesting. But
Yep.
I mean, if you need to stay awake, the keynotes have just been non-stop announcement. So yeah, it's good. High energy.
Yeah. Any favorites from the keynotes?
Oh, I mean, can you get much more of a mic drop than literally making like Unity Catalog open source live during the keynote? That is impressive.
Kobie,
top shelf.
I think we're going to have to ban people from having that as their favorite answer, because otherwise everyone's going to have that.
They might. That was top shelf. That was hard to beat that.
there's so many other things, right? Okay, if we don't want to talk about that, we can talk about serverless.
Ooh,
Serverless is a massive,
yes.
massive thing. And serverless is one of those ones, so just having a chat to various people this morning who are going, is my job going away? Am I still going to have to make videos in a year's time saying, this is how you performance tune a job, or is that just done for us doing something else? And that's crazy shit.
So I've a confession when it comes to serverless. I've done lots of projects with customers, and when I'm making recommendations, there's been a few times I'm like, yeah, price performance, I wonder what's better. Let's just throw it on serverless and see what happens, and it's always better.
Yeah.
Always, 90% of the time, it's better. And it's like, either I could spend 2 weeks with this customer optimizing this job, just change a few settings, and then we, go get a long lunch together.
That's the point. I mean, there's the nerdy side of me where I'm like, but I like playing with all the settings.
But what's under the hood here? Yeah.
But then that's not my job. My job isn't to get a data pipeline and make it go fast. My job is not to write the fanciest Spark code I could possibly write, and also anyone who works with me will tell me I don't write the fanciest Spark code.
This is not maintainable.
It's to get data to the client so they can make better decisions and do stuff with it. And all of those things where we're sitting there going, but my job's changing, my career's changing, I'm not going to do all that stuff. We've only been doing that stuff because it was hard and it was complex and it was challenging, and if it gets less challenging and more mainstream, great, we can do more. So it's an interesting direction. It's just basically where the industry's going, because we're now reaching this point of maturity where things get easier.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Even things, again, like Unity Catalog, I remember back in the old days when we didn't have Unity Catalog, I'd hear stories about teams with hundreds of people managing access but doing workspaces, and it was an absolute nightmare. But again, the more automated things that are coming out, and again, more time focused on doing the doing rather than fixing things that shouldn't have been needing fixing in the first place.
And all of those things that just make things faster, right? Here's all the queries that have ever been run on a table before. The amount of time we used to have to build, manually injecting all of that into all of our ETL pipelines.
My goodness,
I don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Curious about recent projects that you've been working on, and which of those have you been able to start to leverage these kind of things? Some of these things have been pre-GA, and so they've been some early access. Have you been toying with any of these features yourself directly?
We haven't done a lot of serverless and that kind of thing with pre-GA because we work with a lot of financial services, and they're like, preview, no thanks.
No way.
So I'm very happy with all the GA announcements because suddenly it opens the door for all of these things to go, we can now use them.
Brilliant.
But certainly Unity is just part and parcel of every project these days. We spent the last year going, you guys should be using it. And they're like, is it worth adopting? And it's like, yes. You now get all of these things. We don't have to do all of the pain. And it just completely changes how you think about building the stuff, because the whole point of a Lakehouse is to have the nice governed open access layer, all of the good maturity. Some of the stuff isn't new, right? Like data quality, data governance, documenting your data dictionary is not a new concept or a new idea.
Of course not.
But just making it easy for people to do it. AI generating it so people have no excuse not to generate their sort of docs just makes sense and makes it more accessible. So,
yeah. I mean, even if it's not doing everything for you, but being able to click the generate, even if it's not 100% accurate, you can go in and be like, oh no, sorry, that's not quite right. Very quickly change it, which is something you can do in, 5 minutes between meetings, rather than I will sit down for an entire day to document my data and someone else is going to argue about it.
That is the key message, right? Though, of the don't just accept it without checking it. But that's one of the questions that we got a lot last year. Obviously, Gen AI is the big thing everyone wants to do. All the AI, BI stuff of being able to actually use natural language to query your data. It's only going to be good if your documentation is good on top of your data. So people asking us last year, what can we do to prep? What can we do to be ready to take advantage of Gen AI? And it's have a well-structured, well-governed data model, which is the really boring answer, but puts you in the best place to be.
Start with good data, but also on documentation, I don't know if you've seen this, serverless notebooks. It'll start writing things for different cells, but also naming things as well, which is really useful. I don't know about you, but I find myself starting something and I'm like, this isn't a project. I'm just starting something. I've called it test. I've given it terrible naming conventions. And then I get to the end and I'm like, I should probably share this with someone who makes no sense whatsoever. And having something that goes through and actually labels things is really nice.
I have named thousands of data frames DF. Unapologetically, every single time. And I should never do that, but, it works. It gets the code done. And I'm inevitably going to end up fighting and going, that's not the naming convention I want to use. But just having a naming convention and forcing some consistency and forcing standards is boring answer, but so important for engineering, right?
Yeah, and also just like diving into other people's code that you might not necessarily understand. Having something else have like a good stab at, this is what I think it does. And you're like, oh, okay, well, if that's the big picture, okay, now I think I can like try and pick this apart.
And again, the code explainability, the favorite button in the last year is, what's this error? Again, automating my job, I'm becoming less important in my life. But
I am
so useful.
astounded how good that is.
Yeah,
it's Unity catalog context aware as well. So, it'll say things like, oh, you've not used it with this table, you've not referenced this column. It's like, oh, it's really clever.
And it's just getting better.
You start discovering features and capabilities through the assistant telling you about them. So you didn't even begin knowing that you wanted to do it that way, and the intent that you have has it start to suggest things to you that are actual functional uses that you didn't have before. That part, I'm literally using it as a learning tool to actually learn the program. Like it's like
same. Don't tell anyone.
It's almost better than documentation in that you just literally say like, I'm trying to go this direction, and let it keep give you the right signposts to go the right way.
With again the caveat of check your work.
Check it. Yes.
Check it.
It did gaslight me. I mean, this is a year ago, and it's gotten so much better. It made up a new option for autoloader, and I was like, oh my god, I did not know that existed. Turns out it didn't exist.
Let me make a video.
Wow.
It's like, oh. But this is a year ago, and even a year ago, it was actually, all the code was right, everything was right, and it was just like, oh, this option should exist. I was like, I agree with you. And it's the accelerator, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you no longer need to know how to write code. It just means that when you're writing code, you just get there so much faster and you can do the interesting stuff.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Pretty soon the AI is going to start filing feature requests for us. Okay, this feature should exist.
Yeah.
We don't have that option, but we should. And so I'm just going to file that for you now. Is that all right?
No, I completely agree with you on like making your own development faster. So my big beef normally is when you read the documentation, it's thorough, but there's only so much space they have. And so you get like a 1 or 2 line example of how to use the thing. And it's like, yeah, but I want to use this in the most super duper complex way. I'm not really sure of the syntax. And trying to find the answer is like really tricky. But if you
If
just
only
like,
there was a place in YouTube you could find all those answers.
oh, I'm sorry, do
serve
you
it
go
up?
through syntax these days? I had no idea.
Once in a while.
Fantastic. I love that. That was a great service. And speaking of YouTube, did you want to mention where you can be found online and where people can find you?
We can do, yeah. Advancing Spark on YouTube, you can find us there. We do lots of things, generally talking about anything Spark and Databricks and how you build lakes and having angry rants about people who build the medallion architecture wrong, that kind of thing.
And then you come to Data and AI Summit and also do a very similar talk on that.
Yeah.
How'd it go?
I mean, it was sold out, and so I'm doing it again today. So
Are you?
It was nice.
Excellent,
Wow,
excellent.
nicely done.
If you want to know why tin and platinum aren't actually layers you should ever use and to name things sensibly, then yeah.
Oh, I once had a layer that someone named Stone.
Stone.
Yeah. That was.
But even today, my rant holds even more true. The thing I didn't know anything about, the metrics coming into Unity Catalog, is
yes.
very cool. But that's another layer. We've always talked about it as the semantic layer, which some people call diamond, platinum, some people actually call useful things, is another layer of logic. It's outside of your lake. It's like a virtual layer of semantic transformation that is so important because that's actually the final layer that your business people, your end dashboard users interact with it. But you talk about bronze, silver, gold, and then gold's kind of your materialized actual sort of data model plus your semantic layer plus your other bits, and that coming back and being visible part of Unity just means you don't have like your Lakehouse and then just some extra logic hidden somewhere else in other places. It's pulling it back into a single place, so it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I must say, I've always been quite confused by the idea of a semantic layer, because I always thought, I'm going to be building that as part of Gold anyway, and it's always been a bit of a...
So the main thing is it's the kind of thing where you can't materialize and pre-calculate the data. So it's if you're doing a cut and slice, it has to recalculate that based on whatever cut and slice you're doing, and you can't encapsulate that in a view.
Yes.
So if you're trying to put it into a dashboard, that's got to live somewhere.
Yes.
And semantic layers or reporting layers or metric layers, there's various different names, and data folks, we like to fight about naming conventions. We like to fight about what we call things. But
We need some new jargon. I don't know we have enough yet. We need more.
we need to change the jargon now. If we're solving all these problems, we can just now make some new things up, and it's fine.
Excellent.
Where's the intelligence layer? Where does that actually live, and is going to be a new thing that we put on top of stuff?
Yeah. Just a very generic question. I mean, in terms of trends that you've seen coming out of this week that maybe you hadn't anticipated, I mean, is there anything that's really caught you by surprise or caught you off guard?
I mean, the metrics layer is the one thing I had seen nothing about. There's a lot of things that is not surprising,
Okay.
which is the continuing doubling down on actually putting the intelligence layer everywhere,
Yep.
just trying to take advantage of all of the LLM pieces, trying to just inject that to, make it faster, make it more accessible, lower the barriers. All of that stuff it's the direction of travel that Databricks have said, this is where we are going,
Yep.
and it's good that's still holding true. It's not by the way, we've gone a different way. And the one thing I'm happy about, I had a grumble.
Just one thing you're happy.
So many things.
Nice save.
But last year, I was a little bit grumbly last year because there was a bit of a move away from Lakehouse, right? A lot of the announcements last year is, like, the golden new child of Gen AI, and everything was about this is how we do it. And there wasn't too much about, the Spark engine and the Lakehouse and all of that kind of stuff. So this year, all of the investment in terms of making it faster, all of the serverless elements, all of the Unity catalog elements, and going, make that stuff better.
Yeah.
Great, makes me happy.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Last year was kind of like, oh my goodness, we have this new trend. What can we possibly do with it?
Yeah. Turns out everything.
Yeah, it's kind of like, oh my goodness, all these ideas. Whereas this here is a lot more about execution, for everyone. It's not just for the niche players. If you want to incorporate AI in like a fairly simplistic way, great, here's how you can get started.
Yeah.
You want to do something full fat, absolutely, you can do that. And we've got the tools to help you with that as well. So yeah,
That kind of maturity and stability is so important to actually get people to adopt it, right?
yes.
Absolutely.
It's that movement from it being early adopter, you have to be crazy niche, trying to do something mad, through to actually it's just how people work now.
Yeah.
No doubt.
All right. Thank you
you
so much, Simon, for being here. Unfortunately, we'll have run out of time. So if people want to find you, they can find you Advancing Analytics on YouTube.
Yep.
If you want to see more of these hot takes.
No doubt.
And thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Enjoy, guys.
Thank you, Simon.
Bye.
So.
All right.